The Writhing Thing from the Woods by MrMichaelSquid. I was in my parents' kitchen chopping onions as my mother requested to help out with dinner that evening. I had stopped by on my way back to college after enjoying a wonderful time traveling abroad for volunteer work. I was just getting back into school mode, picking the archaeology and anthropology classes I thought would best prepare me for the field. My eyes began to water from the onion, as they always do, so I took a break and walked to the large glass window, opening it for some fresh air, when I saw it. Quivering in the distance above the tree line of their woods, something enormous stood writhing or twitching. It was massive and elongated, likely 60 feet high. I couldn't make it out clearly as it was quite a ways back and blurry, and I'm a bit nearsighted. It was out of place and eerie, but unable to comprehend what exactly I was looking at, I eventually returned to helping with the dinner preparation, onion tears and all. When I looked out the window again, it was gone. The next morning, I returned to the kitchen window once more out of curiosity and saw the thing yet again, waving in an unnatural motion, flailing and massive. I jolted in horror, letting out a gasp of terror, and dropped the cereal bowl I was holding to the floor, cascading milk and flakes across the linoleum. "What the hell?" my dad shouted, and I told him to come check it out. "I'm busy." "What is it?" he asked, clearly annoyed. "There's something out in the woods," I said as he trudged downstairs. He squinted and said, "What? Where?" I looked out, and just like a frustrating movie moment, it was gone. "I'm not crazy. There was something out there, something large. It's taller than the trees." I tried to explain, knowing I sounded like a fool. He just laughed, made a snarky comment I'd rather omit, and made a sandwich while I tried to understand the thing I had seen. That evening, the sun had set and I turned on the front lights of the house, blinded by the brightness for a moment before seeing it again, twitching violently at the front of the woods, far closer, maybe 20 meters away. I shouted with a shock and stared at that thing that looked like a giant undulating nerve-shaped worm, maybe 30 feet high, writhing at the forest edge in front of the trees. It was standing vertically, branching out into short, quivering stalks at the top, tiny, amorphous arms that stretched slowly in all directions. I had no idea what to do, but instinctively pulled my phone from my pocket with shivering hands and pointed the camera at it. When I looked up, I saw it was gone, likely back into the woods out of view, and I was more than frustrated. I knew what I had seen. It was not a hallucination or my imagination. It was as if the thing was stalking me, then hiding, and it was getting closer. I had a hard time passing out that night. Nightmares of that tall, worm-like creature horrified my sweat-soaked sleep. I jolted awake at 4:30 a.m. and shuffled to the bathroom to refill my cup of water. I turned on the light facing the mirror and I screamed. Directly in front of me, inside the bathroom, was a 9-foot-tall, writhing black thing twitching in place. I collapsed backwards, crawling back on my elbows, reeling with terror, staring at the horrific, inhuman thing as it followed me, closing in. I couldn't stop screaming, and I felt everything slow and blur. My heart stopped beating from utter horror, and my mind screamed with the unimaginable, maddening trauma. I turned away, clawing at the carpet, unable to breathe through my grimacing, open mouth. I felt it seize me, and I cringed and screamed louder before losing consciousness. A moment later, my blurry eyes focused on the face of my father. I was dizzy and exhausted, my body depleted from shock and my lungs struggling to breathe. He said he left his bedroom to see me crawling and screaming. Nothing was there, just me. He explained he had grabbed my arm and I passed out. He made an emergency appointment with our family physician the next day. I didn't sleep. I just lay in bed unable to close my eyes. I was in no shape for any nightmares as I was already living in one. I began to realize I might actually be going insane for the first time. The next day, we drove into the cluster of medical offices and entered to sign paperwork and meet the doctor. I just knew that he was going to recommend seeing a psychiatrist. But as I sat in his sterile office on the paper-covered table answering questions, he grabbed an ophthalmoscope, blindingly bright as he began examining my eyes. Upon doing so, I clawed back in horror as the writhing thing stood in the office. "Aha," he said, which startled me in relief as I wasn't crazy. He'd seen something. "It's a type of loa loa, a parasitic worm that can infect the eye. You must have contracted it in the woods when volunteering in Sierra Leone. It likely took a moment to hide when exposed to bright lights, which... Get it out, God, please get it out," I pleaded, trying not to lose myself to madness. And he set up a medication regimen as well as a surgery for the following day to remove the large adult worm, or worms, I chose not to learn which, from my eye.